It's time to get into the Wfxr Sports Fastlane.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jermaine Ferrell, hoping your day is wonderful and blessed. And like butter, let's go on a roll, baby, with the Wfxr Sports Fastlane right here on WFXRTV.com. Now, a quick programming note to let you know now, due to us not having a NASCAR race next weekend, we're going to take a little break. We won't have the WFXR Sports Fastlane next week, but we'll return as we'll recap, of course, the dirt race in Bristol as well as the upcoming race coming to Martinsville. But let's talk about today's show. It's going to be a fun one, and of course we can't do it with our WFXR Sports Racing Insider, Sammy Eanes. Sammy, what is up, my man?
Jermaine, what's good? How are you doing? It's Bristol week. It's dirt week. I'm fired up. We got a lot to talk about and excited to be here with you in the fast lane.
I tell you what, you can't get any dirtier than that. But we're going to talk about dirt in a second. We're going to go back to that asphalt, courtesy of Atlanta. Now, guess what? We start the action here with less than 10 laps to go. Ryan Blaney put pedal to the metal and overtook a dominant Kyle Larson to win the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, Kyle Larson led a race high 269 laps. He won both stages in the closing laps. Larson took the inside line while Blaney gained a huge run off the top of the sweep in and take the lead. Now, the victory at Atlanta was Blaney's 5th career win and first at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, Kyle Larson, he finished 2nd, followed by Alex Bowman, Chesterfield native Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher, William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., and Kevin Harvick completed the top 10.
Yeah, you know, we had a great long run car all day. It took us a little bit to get going, and I was pretty free all day. And so we made a really good change to tighten me up where I needed it. And it looked like Kyle was getting loose. And I'm happy it worked into our favor that there was a couple long runs at the end that let us kind of get there. And he got stoved up behind some lap traffic. But really proud of this whole, Body Armor, Menards, number 12 group, man. We've been good this year and had some bad breaks, and it's nice to close out a race like that. That was awesome.
Did a very nice job closing the race out. I got to ask you, though, you were in the Fox booth for 2 races yesterday. Was it what you learned in the booth with us that was able to propel you to victory?
Oh, definitely. I might have to start doing it every week, I guess, now. But, thank you all for coming out. It's awesome to see fans again. It's really cool. But, thank you, Body Armor, Menards, Ford, Dex Imaging, Advanced Auto Parts for what they do. We couldn't do it without them, and looking forward to sliding around a little bit more next week at Bristol.
And indeed, a big win there. Now, Sammy, when you look at this race, it seemed to me, and I hate using this term, but I'm going to use it anyway, Blaney stole this race from a dominant Larson.
You could certainly say that, no doubt about it. I mean, to your point, Larson dominated this race. Really start to finish, as you said, led 269 laps. But at the end of the day, we see this in a lot of different sports. I hate to say this about my beloved Hokies, but you look at them on the hardwood last week. They led Florida most of the game, couldn't seal the deal in the end, and that's kind of what happened to Larson on Sunday. His tires were worn out, and Blaney had a good long-run car, as he said, and he was able to catch and pass Larson and take home the checkered flag. And really, that was one of 3 big things that stood out to me from this race. The Blaney bounce back is one of those. We've talked about the different drivers winning races so far this year, and drivers feeling the playoff squeeze already, and drivers being on the bubble we didn't expect to be there. And quite frankly, after the first 3 races of the year, Ryan Blaney was one of those drivers. His first 3 races, he finished 30th, 15th, and 29th. He followed that up with back-to-back top 10s, which got him back into the playoff conversation, and then takes home the checkered flag this weekend in Atlanta to lock himself into the playoffs. It's been a good resurgence after a rough start to the year for Ryan Blaney. The second thing that stood out was what we've talked about, again, the variance. That's the word of the year so far in 2021 is variance. In the top 10, again, you had Alex Bowman with his first top 10 of the season. You had Austin Dillon with his 2nd top 10, the first since the Daytona 500, and you had Chris Buescher with his first top 10 of the season, all of which, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about playoffs later, has an impact on that playoff bubble as we look ahead to this fall. Speaking of playoffs, the third big thing from this race, even though I know he didn't take home the W, I feel like we have to talk about Kyle Larson establishing himself as maybe the early season Cup Series champion favorite. He has been the most consistent driver along with Denny Hamlin, but Larson has the win. He's flirted with more wins than Hamlin. He has really delivered in these first couple of races of the year. Now, listen, I know, how many college football players won that September Heisman and folded when the season, when it was crunch time in the season, or even look at NASCAR last year. Kevin Harvick, if anyone would have told you in August that he wasn't going to be in the championship 4 in Phoenix last year, you would have laughed at them, and lo and behold, he wasn't. So still a long way to go, but the early returns on Kyle Larson at Hendrick Motorsports have been very, very good.
And the thing is, when you put him in good equipment, and that's, I think, with any driver, but a driver with the skills of a Kyle Larson, you can make things happen. And also the six races, 6 different winners, which is a crazy thing, Sammy. Just talk about that. 6 different winners in 6 races.
It is. It's something that, we don't see very often in NASCAR at the beginning of a season, to have this many different winners. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, quite frankly, some of those folks you didn't expect to find victory lane during the season. And it has huge impacts on the playoff picture as those spots get eaten up by drivers with wins. The folks who are trying to get in on points, that margin is going to become much more thin, and there's going to be no room for error for some of these drivers who may not find victory lane but hope to be in the playoffs later this year.
Well, I can't wait till later in this segment. We're going to talk about the playoffs, but some notes from this race. Blaney's win, it extended Ford's streak of Atlanta victories to 5 in a row. Now, of course, the Cup Series returns to Atlanta Motor Speedway on July 11th. It's the first time since 2010 that the track has held 2 annual events for the series. So, Sammy, just talk about the dominance of Ford here in Atlanta. They've won the last 5, and, of course, Blaney was a baller shot caller.
That he certainly was. They're certainly dialed in. They, being Ford, are certainly dialed in at Atlanta right now. And I honestly can't explain to you what it is that they have figured out, whether they're in the simulators working and finding that little bit of extra edge of that speed. But the Ford cars, when it comes time to go to Atlanta, are certainly overperforming. I thought Larson was gonna end that streak. I picked him to win this race, and for a while it looked like I was money on that pick. But the Ford stable, the Mustangs, were strong, and they found victory lane again there in Atlanta.
Well, you're always a winner in my mind, so I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, you had it right. It's just how racing, how it is with racing. I mean, it doesn't matter how many laps you lead, just lead the last lap.
That's exactly right.
Well, meanwhile, guess what? NASCAR, of course, celebrating Women's History Month in March by recognizing women in the sport who are making a difference and fueling their success in the racing industry. So we wrap up our salute on just a few of the women currently making an impact in NASCAR. Now, Tiffany Myrick, she's a NASCAR technical inspector. Now, as a technical inspector for NASCAR, Myrick examines cars before the race to make sure they are following NASCAR's rules. During the race, Myrick watches pit stops and calls penalties, and her favorite assignment is flagging the races. Myrick was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and grew up watching races at Talladega Super Speedway. We asked Tiffany, what does this month mean to her, as well as her day-to-day activities and her role there?
I think it's a time to reflect and look at where we started and how far we've come since then. Because if it wasn't for all those brave women back in the 50s and 60s getting into the workforce, it was male predominant back then, I know I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's just remembering where we came from and knowing that we have so far left to go, and just kind of helping pave the way for the future and the girls growing up. We come in and get set up and everything, and we'll eat breakfast, have our meeting, and then we go through the inspection process, and we all work at our separate inspection stations. So I have been doing safety primarily the past couple of weekends. So it's just about making sure interior of cars are okay and driver safety, because that is, I think we've come so far in that, and we need to keep learning and progressing with that. So once we get through with inspection, you can grab lunch whenever you have time, and then we go to the grid on pit road and do prime, run back, get dressed, and for me last weekend I flagged, so I got my ride over, and went up in the flag stand, met our honorary starter, kind of walked him through everything, and then got ready to flag the rest of the race. And that was the day. And then post-race inspection, of course, and then fly back home.
Neat stuff. And I tell you, it's been great to honor just a sample of the women making the impact. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of women making an impact in the world of NASCAR and auto racing in general. And Sammy, just give me a little bit of your thoughts on Tiffany Myrick, because she's playing a big role when you talk about inspecting cars and making sure all the cars are legal. That is a big job right then and there.
You hit the nail on the head. It is a huge job. It is a critically important job to make sure the cars are legal and, more importantly, safe. I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to chat with Tiffany just before we hopped on here on the Fastlane. And that's one thing she talked about, was working on cars, keeping them safe, keeping these drivers safe. So when you see these big spectacular crashes, that the drivers are able to safely walk away from those. Tiffany, as you said, she grew up in Alabama. Her grandfather was a racer. She actually started volunteering at Talladega Super Speedway, giving garage tours at age 12, which to me is remarkably impressive. She's about to enter her third year at NASCAR. And another thing she touched on in the soundbite, and when I spoke to her, is that she loves being an example for girls out there who maybe watch NASCAR and want to get involved in the sport. To be able to see a female on screen flagging a race or doing inspection or whatever the case may be is huge. And she is very honored to serve as that example and potential role model for the future generations of women who may want to get involved in the sport.
That's some neat stuff right there. So you talked to her a little bit before. That was pretty cool, though. So, hey, good job on that. Sammy, that's why you're the man. That's why you are our racing insider. I mean, to talk to her just before we go on the air, that is big time, brother. I love that. Meanwhile, shifting gears a little bit, I love saying that when we're talking racing, of course. NASCAR Cup Series driver Bubba Wallace was at the Richmond Raceway last week. We showed the video of that to test NASCAR's next-gen car. It's been a busy year already for Wallace, and with a new team, a fresh set of expectations, Wfxr Sports' Nally Calabac caught up with Wallace as he shares how the new year is going.
Excited for the direction that NASCAR is heading. I think there's some stuff to still be worked out, but we got a lot of tests between now and the start of the season next year for the next gen car, and teams getting a massage on a little bit. So we'll see what comes of it.
Wallace is the first driver for 2311 Racing, the team launched by Michael Jordan and Chesterfield native Denny Hamlin.
Denny is a competitor. Now he's your boss, but he's still your competitor. What is that like?
It's been good. It's been a lot of fun working with Denny, him helping me out, and I'm trying to provide the best feedback that I can. So I feel like we're making strides, making this organization grow.
Wallace has a simple measuring stick for his and the team's progress.
By the time summer rolls around, we want to be better than the spring, and by the time fall rolls around, we want to be better than the summer. So that's just continuing to rise up. We're right around 15th right now, consistently, and so that's good.
And, of course, that was Nally Calabac reporting that a NASCAR Cup Series will run on dirt for the first time since 1970 with Sunday's Food City Dirt Race at Bristol Motor Speedway. You can see the race right here on WFXR and Fox Sports. Coverage beginning at 2 on Sunday. And a host of drivers have dirt racing backgrounds: Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Alex Bowman, to name a few. And many of the series regulars have taken turns in recent weeks logging laps on dirt tracks across the country and in the Bristol Dirt Nationals held last week at the half-mile track.
So I think maybe guys who grew up stock car racing or used to heavy cars and being on slick, wore out tracks, I think, will do fine here at Bristol. I think the advantage that we have as dirt guys is being able to read the track surface and know how it's changing, know where there's grip, things like that.
And that's going to be some neat stuff. Now, like we said, it will be on dirt. Now, it'll be 250 laps with the first and second stages, 75 laps each, and the final stage will be 100 laps. A neat thing, the drivers will get practice sessions tomorrow, and then on Saturday there'll be 4 qualifying races. And bringing in Sammy again. Sammy, the last guy to win on dirt was Richard Petty back in 1970. And he mentioned during a press conference a few weeks back in Bristol that say, I'm kind of disappointed they're bringing dirt back because I was the last guy to win on dirt. But that's what NASCAR was all about back then, racing on dirt. Just your thoughts on the history of that, because that has to be so cool to see those cars racing in dirt.
It definitely is. And look, no matter what, Richard Petty is and always will be the king. So even if he isn't the last guy to win a NASCAR Cup Series race on dirt, he's still pretty good in my book. But it is super cool. You know, when they put out the 2021 schedule, everyone looked at all the different changes with the new venues, the road courses. For me, the first thing that caught my eye was dirt at Bristol, return of the Cup Series to dirt. It is the sport's roots. It is, you know, when you think about racing in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, they raced a ton on dirt. So it is awesome to see the Cup Series go back to its roots. Also, we've seen sort of a resurgence of dirt racing on the local level with modified tours and whatnot. So this is a great way to bring NASCAR closer to that grassroots racing community, to the elite series of the Cup Series, the elite level of the Cup Series, to the grassroots racing. I think it's going to be a wild Sunday up at Bristol, and one that I'm very much looking forward to.
Now, the king of dirt racing was Lee Petty, Richard's dad. He's won the most races on dirt. So unless we have a bunch of dirt races, that number probably, I think he's won like 43 races on dirt. So unless we have a bunch of dirt races added to the season, that's going to be a hard number to catch up with. But do you feel, I did mention some of the drivers, they feel like there might be an advantage. Do you feel like there's an advantage on some of the guys that have made their run on dirt over the last few years?
Having experience on dirt is certainly huge heading into this race, but the Cup cars, no one really knows how they're going to react on dirt. You know, are they going to be the same as some of these late models or the midgets that the drivers are out there driving? Are they going to handle the same? Is it going to be the same type environment? I think that having experience on dirt certainly is better than not having experience on dirt, but I think you can throw all rules and expectations out the window heading into this weekend.
And of course, they had an iRace on, or E-Race, or it's E-Race. I butchered it. E-Race, iRace, they're all the same to me. It's on the computer, it's on the sim. But William Byron won that race on Wednesday. Again, that's different than actually being in the car. But speaking of that race, I got to ask you, who do you feel is going to win that bad boy? And give me your dark horse for the dirty, dirty race coming to Bristol.
You got it. Conventional wisdom says Christopher Bell or Kyle Larson is going to win this race. They have probably the most dirt races on their resume in the Cup Series. Larson last year won over a dozen races in his hiatus from the Cup Series on dirt that in some ways actually probably prepared him for this weekend. I tried my best to find a reason to not go with one of those two drivers, so I'm not following the pack that everyone's picking, but I can't. Kyle Larson is my pick to win this weekend. He's won the last two Chili Bowls. He won at Eldora. Again, he spent so much time last year on dirt that I have to think that comes into play. Plus, he's just having a phenomenal season so far, as we talked about at the top of the show. For those reasons, I think Kyle Larson is the odds-on favorite and who I think will win in Bristol. And, I don't know how much this stat means because I don't know how much you can compare racing on the concrete at Bristol versus dirt, but Larson does have 5 top 10s in his last 6 races there, for what that's worth. As for a dark horse or a wild card, this whole race is a wild card. I think I'm going to go with one of the ringers. We often have the ringers to come in and run on road courses, but we're seeing a lot of drivers who don't typically or have never run in NASCAR coming in to run the race this weekend. You've got Chris Windom, the reigning USAC champion, running, but I like Mike Millar as a dark horse. He's a 2018 World of Outlaws late model champion. He's from the Tennessee area. He is an elite dirt driver. So I like him as a dark horse. If you're looking for a Cup Series regular as a dark horse, keep an eye on Austin Dillon.
Hey, can I throw one at you?
What you got?
This guy's had a lot of success at Bristol. How about Kyle Busch, the other Kyle? Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's the active driver with the most wins at Bristol. I know it's dirt, but I like Kyle Busch. I mean, am I a little off on that? I went with the other Kyle. You went with Larson. I'm going with Busch. Kyle Busch.
Don't hate that pick at all. Kyle Busch is one of the best drivers, really, of all time, certainly at this generation. He has some experience on dirt. And as you said, he is elite at Bristol. I don't know, again, what that means heading into this race, but Kyle Busch is a guy who, quite honestly, could use a win and will be extra motivated this weekend. So I don't hate that pick.
And also, obviously, the ultimate king at Bristol was Darrell Waltrip, obviously, but he was the man. I mean, that's his home area, kind of, sort of. So if Darrell Waltrip was running in the race, which I'm surprised he didn't come out and do the boogity boogity boogity, you know, maybe he'll be a surprise in there, but I don't think he'll be doing that. But we'll see.
You never know. They could roll him out on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. Literally roll him right then and there. And also, one other thing, if you're going to that race and you're near the track, and I'm sure you're going to mention this too, make sure that your cups are covered, because they say that dirt will fly the closer you are to the track. If you're higher up, you're okay. Closer to the track, that's an interesting thing, you know, because probably fans don't realize, hey, don't wear your good clothes out there because the dirt will fly.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I grew up going to dirt racing at Oak Level Raceway there outside of Martinsville on Friday nights. And yeah, you would come home and you would have a nice little layer of dirt on your clothes. So yeah, I wouldn't wear your Sunday's best if you're sitting close to the track this weekend in Bristol.
Good deal. Well, anyway, guess what? Bristol Motor Speedway is known for racing, but operators of the world's fastest half mile are masters at the art of transformation. Now, this weekend, the Speedway is a dirt track, but it hosts many other events that have nothing to do with fast cars. And WFXR Sports' Kelly Grossfield shows us how this multi-use property serves the community.
The sound synonymous with Bristol Motor Speedway. But the roar of the engines is not all you'll hear echoing throughout this facility.
We're an entertainment venue. Yes, our core business is racing and we are a racetrack, but we're really an entertainment venue. We have lots of other facilities here on property that people can use.
Bristol Motor Speedway General Manager Jerry Caldwell says during a normal year, something is happening here more than 300 days of it.
We host something from, you know, a Boy Scout troop getting together and needing some property to use, to driving schools, to safety driving schools, drag racing, vaccine distributions, concerts, football games, and then obviously our core business being racing.
In 2016, it took about 18 days for Bristol Motor Speedway to transform into a football field to host the Battle at Bristol. The Tennessee-Virginia Tech matchup drew an NCAA record crowd of nearly 160,000. And each year, the track becomes a winter wonderland known as Speedway and Lights. The Holiday Light Extravaganza raises money for Speedway Children's Charities.
This property is used so many days a year to make a difference in the community, whether it's the charities raising money or it's groups coming in from all over the region to have meetings here.
But this year, the Bristol Motor Speedway campus served arguably its most important purpose yet by serving as a COVID-19 vaccine distribution site.
They were a tremendous partner in this. Without them, we would not be where we are today in our vaccination numbers in Sullivan County.
While many know Bristol Motor Speedway as the world's fastest half mile, you could also call it the world's most versatile half mile. In Bristol, I'm Kelly Grossfield.
And thank you so much, Kelly. And guess what? The dirt will fly in Bristol for the Food City Dirt Race. Race from Bristol begins at 3:30. Coverage starting at 2 with Fox Race Day. We got it all for you on Sunday on WFXR and Fox. Well, meanwhile, we're talking playoffs now. Sammy is Ryan Blaney. He just won one. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, William Byron, and Michael McDowell. So 6 of the 16 playoff spots are gone. Now, looking at the other levels, Denny Hamlin dropped a spot to 7th. Obviously, if you win, you're going to drop a spot or 2. Joey Logano, he stayed at 8th. Brad Keselowski dropped 2 spots to 9th. Kevin Harvick stays at 10th. Chase Elliott drops a couple of spots to 11th. Austin Dillon staying at 12th. Kyle Busch up 2 spots from 13th to 13th. Alex Bowman goes from 17th. He was outside looking in. He's 14th. Kurt Busch dropping from 11th to 15th. Chris Buescher now in the 16th hole. He's 6 points above the cut line. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 17th as he was 16th the previous week. And Ryan Preece dropping from 14th to 18th. So he's outside of the playoffs. So a lot to unpack when it comes to the playoffs, but there was a lot of movement. And, of course, when you get someone winning that is either in the playoff range or even outside of the bubble, and then if you finish well, I mean, you had a lot of movement right there, Sammy.
You certainly did, and this shows the importance of good runs. Even if you can't win a race, it shows the importance of getting a top 5 or a top 10. You talk about Alex Bowman and Wfxr moving up in the playoff standings and giving themselves a little bit of pad room, although there at the cut line, it is certainly not comfortable whatsoever, but it stresses the importance of winning these races, getting to victory lane, and locking yourself into the playoffs. And I think what we've seen this year with so many different drivers, not only winning, but competing and getting top 10s, that's why you're seeing some of that movement on the line. But I think that when you look at a Stenhouse or a Wfxr or a Bowman, those guys are in decent shape right now. Obviously, they want to get a win. When you look a little bit further down, when you look at a Cole Custer or Eric Almirola or a Ryan Newman, drivers you thought would be playoff contenders this year, they're falling a little further and further back, and the pressure is really going to be on those drivers to find victory lanes sooner rather than later.
What did Al Davis say, the owner of the Raiders? Just win, baby. You know, you got to get a spot in. But it's safe to say, like, unless Denny Hamlin just has a full collapse, it's safe to say he's in. And I think he's going to win some of these races right around the corner. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out as fun stuff. Well, guess what? WFXRTV.com is your home for the Fast Lane each and every Thursday, 3 o'clock on WFXRTV.com. If you'd like to see this show again, a replay of it, and previous shows of the WFXR Sports Fastlane, we have it for you on WFXRTV.com. And again, I mentioned at the top of the show, since we won't have a race next weekend, we're going to take a break because it's going to be the holidays, Easter, and all that good stuff. So we'll come back in 2 weeks with Fastlane. We will recap the Bristol race as well as look forward to Martinsville as they'll be under the lights. And with the governor's announcement, we should see a few more fans that'll be allowed at the track. They made the announcement today, not only at Martinsville, but the following week you're going to have Richmond. So it's going to be basically the Commonwealth the next few weeks. Everybody's kind of staying in there. You go to Bristol, you go to Martinsville, you go to Richmond. So it's time for the Commonwealth to shine a little bit there, Sammy.
That's right. I mean, this is the roots of the sport, right? The Carolinas, Virginia. It's awesome to when they have these races. These are 3 of the best tracks in the circuit, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but having fans back is huge. That was a big thing when Blaney climbed out of that car and you could hear the roar of the fans. Man, that felt really, really good. And look forward to seeing more and more fans as limits lift in other places.
It's going to be fun stuff. Well, Sammy, enjoy the extra week off. Have fun with it. And again, thank you so much again for helping me out, our racing insider, WFXR Sports Style, Sammy Eanes. Enjoy your time and happy Easter.
Likewise, same to you and all the crew there that keeps the Fast Lane on the road.
That's right. We have an awesome pit crew, the WFXR Sports pit crew. Change the tires, filling it up with Sunoco fuel and the jack, you know, and all that good stuff. Make sure the windshield wipers are working if you need them. I mean, they don't have them on the car, but at least we have them there. So, again, Sammy, enjoy your week, sir. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, and that does it for this edition of the WFXR Sports Fast Lane right here on WFXRTV.com. Again, we will not have a show next Thursday, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with the Fast Lane. Again, we'll recap Bristol, and we'll also look forward to the big one at Martinsville coming to the paperclip. The mods will be there as well, so it'll be a fun time. Until then, I'm Jermaine Ferrell. Hope all of your teams are winners. Again, thank you so much to the WFXR Sports pit crew and everyone who had a hand in the show. And I hope all of your teams are winners. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone. And go racing!